So, Matt Gaetz, speaking of regime change, you're trying to block the Speaker of the House vote. You and I have had some, not block, but, have a change. We've had some conversations about that. 1-3, big day. Walk us through it.
Well, I think that if the coach loses the games that they're supposed to win, they get replaced. If the CEO misses the earning projections, then the board fires them. And I think that in politics, if we have leaders who didn't deliver victory, then maybe we ought to go a different direction, and that's why I'm not voting for Kevin McCarthy.
Lauren Boebert.
Look, you cannot demand more responsibility without accountability. From the beginning, I have said my hard line is vacate the chair. We have to have an accountability mechanism on the Speaker of the House. This is third in command for the presidency of the United States of America, and we are going to strip away the one check and balance that members of Congress have on the Speaker of the House. And by the way, this was a precedent that Nancy Pelosi started. Nancy Pelosi changed the rules with motion to vacate, and she stripped that individual authority away from each member of Congress. And now Kevin McCarthy is teetering with doing the same thing. And that is unacceptable for me. I've said it from the beginning. This is where we start. Any negotiations after that are just a wish list because there's no accountability attached to the promises. So
Matt, people are wondering then who's the alternative?
How about Lauren Boebert?
Okay.
Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Lee Zeldin. Let's say, come on.
Can you get to 218, Lauren?
I don't know. I don't think so. I got one right here.
Yeah.
But I don't know because folks, maybe we want to keep Lauren Boebert open for that VP slots that's coming up.
What is this?
Can't have two Florida residents, so.
That's right. Well, Charlie, I think that the true base of our party wants to see one of the fighters in leadership, not some shill for lobbyists and special interests. And the people here know what every single one of us know in Congress, and that is the hardest working, most talented member who inspires our base and gets us to perform at our best is Jim Jordan from Ohio. He's the best. And he might not be in the race yet, but you know what? Paul Ryan wasn't in the race either until Kevin McCarthy dropped out first. Interesting that Paul Ryan is now backing Kevin McCarthy. Birds of a feather flocking together there. But I think that Jim may rise like a phoenix from the ashes on January 3rd. And I'd love to see Nancy Pelosi hand Jim Jordan that speaker's gavel.
Matt, I gotta ask you though. Everyone here is pro-Trump. They said Trump, Trump, Trump. Trump said Kevin McCarthy should be Speaker of the House.
I disagree. Look, I love President Trump. I'm going to vote for him in 2024. I'm going to campaign hard for him. But HR was not always his best thing. It was not only the best people. I mean, I remember having to deal with Jeff Sessions and Mattis and Tillerson and Bill Barr. It was sort of a parade of horribles with some of the people he chose inside of Washington, D.C. So maybe we ought to have a choice come out of the House that represents the conservative center of our caucus. I'll be for Trump for president, but I will not follow him in supporting Kevin McCarthy for Speaker.
Lauren.
Like I said, we have to have accountability here, and without that, Kevin McCarthy's not Speaker. There has been no agreements made on that, and how can we believe anything else moving forward? So maybe things change on January 3rd, but President Trump should take a look at what is actually being said in the House of Representatives right now.
And so Matt,
yeah. By the way, I remember having to go and beg and plead for subpoena power the last time we were in the majority, and we had Paul Ryan and Trey Gowdy standing in the way of the accountability that could have reined in the FBI and the Department of Justice before they did all this additional damage to our country. And Kevin McCarthy was like a wallflower. He was sitting on his hands, never did anything to help us, never spoke up to help us at all. So now I'm supposed to believe that when he needs my vote, he's all of a sudden going to be like some big alpha giving us the authority to get answers? It's a total puppet show. It's a parade, and the people here know it and see it. And you know what? If Kevin McCarthy was on that stage today, he'd get booed off of it, and for good reason.
So, someone who we all respect, Marjorie Taylor Greene, says Kevin McCarthy is going to be a great speaker.
I guess you'll have to ask Marjorie about that. I'm a fan of hers. I'm an admirer, but it's not something we see the same way.
Lauren?
Well, you know, I've been aligned with Marjorie and accused of believing a lot of the things that she believes in. I don't believe in this, just like I don't believe in Russian space lasers.
Are you a hard no?
Space lasers and all of this? No, I'm just saying we need to actually have an inside conversation and make sure that these promises are there. We've had forums for the first time ever. The first one went terrible. Absolutely.
So what do you mean by that?
Forum for the rules. So we are a majority rule self-governing body. And for the first time, the GOP conference came together and actually discussed the conference rules that we're going to have, and we're able to have amendments. The first round went absolutely terrible. Second round kind of went worse. But anytime Kevin McCarthy stood up and said, no, this is right, we're going to do it, people acquiesced. They backed off. We need leadership on all of the decisions, not someone who is going to remain silent, especially on something like earmarks. We talked about that on your show just last week.
It's a big problem.
It is a huge problem, and Kevin McCarthy was completely silent in this forum when it came to earmarks, and now Republicans are probably going to spend just as much as Democrats did because we have earmarks back in place.
Yeah, think of some of the crazy stuff that we're asking for, our unreasonable demands. We want conservatives on the key committees. We want a budget on the floor that will balance. We want every bill to deal with a single subject, not to have to vote on the farm bill and war powers in Yemen in the same vote. And these are things Kevin McCarthy is unwilling to give us because he actually wants to turn the institution over to the lobbyists and K Street. Remember, Kevin McCarthy is the guy who has been identified as big tech's best friend in Congress. Do you really want some lackey for big tech making these key decisions about what legislation is reviewed and considered on the House floor? Of course not. And so the reason Kevin is pushing back on these demands we've made is not because he is coming from some position of strength. It's because he's a puppet for the lobbyists and the America Last institutions that have been keeping the people of our country down for decades.
And so the fear that some people have is, well, no speaker, how long is this going to go on without finding a consensus? And so just so I'm clear, you're a hard no, Matt, right? I mean, he could make you head of the Rules Committee and you would still say no.
I'm not voting for Kevin.
Okay, but Lauren, you're not a hard no. You're currently a no, but if rule changes, I just want to make sure.
Look, there's a place here. If there is accountability there, we can start having other conversations. But those conversations don't exist without accountability. So we'll see on January 3rd if there's any accountability there, but I don't see it coming yet.
Walk us through the process then, Matt. What does a win look like for you on January 3rd?
Well, I would really like on January 2nd for Kevin McCarthy to see that he doesn't have the votes, he won't have the votes, and then from that, a consensus candidate like a Jim Jordan, like a Lee Zeldin, could step forward and be considered.
Doesn't have to be a member of Congress.
That's right. How about Posobiec for Speaker? I don't know. We're taking applications.
Charlie Kirk. How about Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't get many votes.
I tried to get you to be the RNC chairman because you
Charlie
run
Kirk
the best
for
parties,
RNC chair.
you raise the
think?
money, you inspire the activists, and you actually believe that people ought to have skills in political battle. Oftentimes we have an RNC that has meetings and they do lectures, but people don't come out of interactions with the RNC better prepared for the fight. That's exactly what Turning Point does, and that's what we ought to scale all across our country.
I have no interest in being RNC chair, but I guarantee you I wouldn't spend $700,000 on flowers. I guarantee it.
You could get a deal. You know a guy.
Yeah, there would be no flower budget, period, and no Lululemon budget. Okay, it just wouldn't exist.
Ah, come on now.
You're the Republican Party. But what does success look like on 1-3 then, Matt? Because
picking someone else.
Okay, but the process, right? What does it look like for the people that don't understand? Is this a backroom deal? Is it going to go public?
Oh no.
Walk us through the timetable. What is happening on 1-3? Walk us through it.
Well, the roll is called of the Congress alphabetically, so we need extra courage from those with last names that starts with A, B, C, D, and then as those votes pile up, then I think you'll see more folks reject McCarthy as a candidate, and there may be subsequent rounds of voting. We might not get to a speaker on the first ballot. It may take a few votes, it may take a few days, may take a few weeks, but you know what? I'd rather get this right. I'd rather have sort of a turbulent takeoff than to spend 2 years trying to follow a leader that's got a wet finger in the wind to try to figure out where to go with things.
So what you're saying is that by the end, the wee hours of 1-3, we may not have a speaker. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying we could see the cherry blossoms bloom and not have a speaker.
Wow.
I hope it doesn't come to that. But,
well, but Matt, but is that good for the country? That means we wouldn't have subpoenas, no committees, no budgets.
Well, look, we don't have it anyway if it's Kevin McCarthy. I've been to this movie. I've seen the way the guy acts in leadership, and there's no gusto there. There's no strength. There's only slower surrender than yesterday, and I don't want to be in Congress if that's the case. Frankly, Charlie, I've probably got a lot of constituents that wouldn't mind if the House of Representatives didn't convene at all. Maybe the people are more safe and our liberties are more safe when folks in Congress are back home in their districts, not sitting around the swamp and inside the Beltway.
I think that sounds good, Matt, but I mean, Kevin says he'll do the Mayorkas oversight and impeachment. Garland, I mean, it's better to have some oversight than none.
No, he didn't say that, Charlie. He said he would think about an investigation that could one day lead to an impeachment inquiry. And I know what that is in McCarthy speak. It is the slow boat to China. And I've just had enough of it. This guy's had years to try to show that he could lead, and time and again he has failed the test of leadership.
He's immovable. Matt Gaetz, everybody. Lauren, 1-3, what does success look like?
Just like Matt said, we have to get this right for America. We absolutely have to put in the time, put in the effort, have these conversations. We aren't there to just anoint someone to a position and say, well, you earned it. Heck, if that's how we arrived anywhere in life, then we wouldn't be very far. I certainly wouldn't be in Congress because there were many people who told me, you have to wait your turn. You have to work your way up the ladder. You have to do something else first. It's not your time yet. But I don't do anything conventionally. And so I think that this is something that we have to put a lot of thought and effort into and get together as a conference and actually have the time available to have these conversations, to have the debate. There's hardly any debate in Congress. We should certainly have it in the House of Representatives in our conference.
Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Matt Gaetz and Laura Boebert and Jack Posobiec are here live from Turning Point USA's AmericaFest.